All right, here we go. Coming at you. It's just me tonight, just Kyle, Based Fat Chad. Chris is not going to be on this one. Chris puts out a lot of solo content himself, so I'm trying to catch up, trying to do some work. So tonight, I wanted to start off by talking about. Um, I just on Monday night, the night of the eclipse, I ended up moderating a Crucible debate between Andrew Wilson and this guy Octavio from the Solution podcast, and they were talking about, Andrew goes on the Whatever podcast, and Fresh and Fit, I think is the other one. And Andrew does what Andrew does. He kind of bullies these silly young women around, and I understand why, but it rubbed some people the wrong way, and it rubbed Octavio the wrong way. So he made a call out video for Andrew, and so they set up a debate. And I don't know if Andrew had a moderator set up, and that moderator fell through, or what the deal was. But I would say somewhere maybe like 4 o'clock, Andrew messaged me, and I responded. I asked him what was up, and then a few hours later, he messaged me basically like right before the debate was going to start, and asked if I was interested in guest moderating that debate. I've never moderated a debate before. I was in one debate, and my performance was not great. Still kind of hunting to get back in the ring to avenge that loss. But we'll see what happens. But I was kind of nervous, so I was honestly thinking about saying no. But I was like, no, you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So I agreed, and I'm glad I did. It was a lot of fun. I am, a big fan of the Crucible. Here at the Two Tongues podcast, we stand the Crucible pretty hard. I do, anyways. I watch a lot of their debates, particularly Andrew's. So I was just glad to be a part of it. It was a lot of fun. The actual debate, I interjected like maybe 3 times during the actual debate, and the first time I did, Andrew and Octavio had been battling back and forth, arguing the same point. Andrew had agreed to Octavio's, Octavio was saying we need to be leaders of women, and I actually, Octavio's point was very confusing sometimes. It seemed like he almost didn't even really know what his point was. But he said we need to be leaders. Men are supposed to be leaders. You don't need to be going on there dunking on these chicks. And the first half hour of the back and forth, Andrew was basically like, "Yes, I agree with you, but also we need, it's fine to give women their responsibility." And I'm with Andrew on that one. I go pretty hard on men on X. I think that a lot of the red pill stuff is kind of goofy. It's like just a lot of. It seems to me either side wants to take responsibility. The red pill guys are just like all of these women are used up. Sorry, my dog's chewing on a bone here. All these women are like used up roasties. A bunch of just no good, irredeemable 304s, basically. And I don't agree with that. But then on the other side, it seems mostly to be a bunch of, conservative Christian women most of the time. Most of the arguments that come from the other side are women who are saying, essentially, if you're not willing to marry these, if a girl stops OnlyFans, you're obligated to want to marry her the next day. You expect her to put any distance between that kind of behavior. You just have to trust her immediately. And I think that that's retarded. I think that's retarded as well. So, you know, I was, I think that Octavio had a point. I do think that men need to be leaders. I don't think that his method for how men need to be leaders was very well planned out, and his insistence that all men are leaders as well was, it just doesn't make any sense. I know a bunch of men who don't have like a leader bone in their body. Yeah, that's not. I'm not trying to be insulting toward those men. I don't consider myself fucking Napoleon or anything like that. But I do. I try to lead by example a lot of the time. I'm not up there giving the Braveheart speech. I just try to do what I'm doing to the best of my ability, and I try to inspire people that way. So that, like I said, that debate was a lot of fun. I hope, I hope that I get another opportunity to do that. Andrew, if you ever need another mod, I would be happy to help out. So yeah, I do think that was a lot of fun. It was pretty cool. We picked up a couple of followers, so that's pretty sweet. I've had some people say nice things to me about my moderating performance, so that's nice too. Always nice to hear nice things. Hey, now that I see there's a couple people in the chat, can any of you guys tell me, am I sounding okay? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if I am sounding good. No thumbs up in the chat yet. I'm starting to get nervous. Dead air. Dead air. Sounds good. All right. Thank you. Glad to hear that. Okay. So the main thing that I wanted to talk about tonight, it kind of ties in with the debate topic. And the debate topic, like I said, Andrew goes on these whatever podcasts, and I don't want to talk trash on a platform that gives people that I like exposure. And I mean, Andrew and the Crucible have been blowing up the last few months, and I'm happy as hell for them. And a big part of that is Andrew's publicity tour that he's doing on. He's been on whatever. He's been on Fresh and Fit. He went on Gavin McInnes' show. I'm sure he did some other ones too that are slipping my mind. But Andrew's doing great. The Crucible is blowing up. It was already the fastest growing debate platform on the internet, and now I think it's definitely cemented that. So, like I said, I don't want to talk trash on these platforms that are giving people that I consider, people that I like. But I will say I don't love the Whatever podcast. It's very hard for me to watch. I tune in when Andrew's on because, like I said, we stand Crucible hard here. But yeah, it's just not really for me. I mean, it's listening. Most of the time, you have to listen to a bunch of stupid people who think that they're really smart. It's very frustrating. And honestly, another thing that drives me crazy about it is the TTS super chats. You'll have somebody like Andrew who, when Andrew's breaking things down, he's talking for a minute. He's making a point, and he's got to stop all the time because people are sending in these $200 super chats to get read by the TTS. It just drives me fucking nuts. And also, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think that the type of women that are on whatever are representative of the majority of women in the general public. And I think that a lot of people watch that show and shows like that, and they project that onto the general public. And I don't think that that's good. Like when I'm watching an episode of whatever, man, by the middle of the episode, I feel I feel like a misogynist. I feel like, man, I hate women, and I have to remind myself that I know a bunch of women. Well, I don't know a bunch of women, but I know quite a few women who are not like that. So yeah, it's just not my favorite thing to watch. Allie, same. I can't stand when they spend so much time on some hose long ass, boring ass story about how some guy ghosted her. Yeah, it's just a bunch of shit like that. Now, like I said, I do try to watch when Andrew's on because Andrew's always bringing his particular brand of like logic and great argumentation, and I like that. But even that gets a bit tedious for me. I can't lie. I was listening to the one that he did today at work. I was listening to the one that he did, and I don't have a whole lot of hair. I'm bald, but man, if I had it, I would have wanted to fucking yank it out a lot of the time. Um, Zach says, sounds good. I think people are torn between right now holding women accountable by the carrot and the stick. As a Christian, the carrot is preferable. I agree. Um, Now, it depends on what you mean by carrot and stick. Like, Andrew goes pretty hard on these ladies, which is maybe a generous term for the creatures that go on that show. But sometimes Andrew might be using some verbal sticks, if you know what I'm saying. I'm fine with that. I really don't have a problem with that. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I was listening to the one that he did the other day, and they had that like Reiki healer on, and she wouldn't say what her age was. It's just fucking stupid, man. I like Brian Atlas. He seems like a good dude. He seems like well intentioned. Obviously, he's trying to make some money, and he's doing a bang up job of that. Um, but I can't hate on him for that. I would love to be making some money here on the Two Tongues podcast myself, maybe someday. Uh, but one of the wholly down with verbal sticks. Yep, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with verbal carrots either, though, or physical carrots. I don't know if chicks are into carrots like horses are, but who fucking knows, man. Um, so one of the people who kind of blew up on whatever, and she's blown up even more recently, is that woman Nala. Um, And I just feel I have felt like kind of what I said earlier about the red pill on one side and the Christian conservative women on the other side. Um, there's just no sensible middle position on this woman. It's like all of the red pill guys are like the red pill guys and Pearl um, are all like, she's terrible. It doesn't make any sense that the Christian conservatives are giving her a chance. Um, and I just don't agree with that. We'll get into that. And then the other side, you've got like, what is it? There's a woman. I think she's from Turning Point, and she's been on whatever too. And her and Andrew have gotten into it a few times. So I mean, it's not just like Andrew's beating up on the 304s on that show. He goes after a lot of these conservative too, because a lot of these women are they're just like crypto feminists, like they're happy to say abortion is murder, Donald Trump for president. And I appreciate that stuff. I think that that's good. That's better than the alternative for those things, I guess. But they also, as soon as you challenge what they want to be doing with their lives, or you say that you think that maybe it would be better off for them to do something else, they turn into feminists immediately. And so they have these extreme positions on Nala, and I don't think that there's a good middle position. And my position, even before I watched the bulk of what we're going to talk about, pretty much all of what we're going to talk about here is Michael Knowles, who I'm also an appreciator of. I love Michael Knowles. He had Nala on for an interview, a 2.5 hour interview that I slogged through, man. It was not the most interesting interview that I've ever heard in my life. But I appreciate Knowles for giving her a shot to talk about what's going on in her life. Um, so I watched all of that, and even before that, my position was she says she's Christian. I will give her the benefit of the doubt. Let her, she's going to have to walk the walk, and she either will or she won't. And if she doesn't, honestly, I can't say that I would be surprised because I think that happens a lot. Um, and I'm not even if she doesn't end up walking the walk, even if she, goes a few months trying to be Christian and then falls off the wagon, I don't even think that means that she wasn't sincere when she was saying it. I mean, the Jesus's parables pop up. There's the same one in multiple gospels. It's like some of them appear in all three of them. John, the Gospel of John doesn't have any parables, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it's in Luke. There's the parable of the seeds that are falling onto different types of soil. And there's that one good type of soil where the seed falls and it takes root, and you got a Christian for the rest, hopefully for the rest of that person's life. Then there's the other seeds, the other soils that the seeds fall on. The soil's not shallow enough; it can't take root, or it falls in with other plants, and the seedling out. I think there's one more that I'm missing, but you get what I'm saying. I don't. Even if she falls off the Christian wagon, I don't necessarily think that means she's not sincere. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of where I was coming from, and I watched this, and that's where I was in the beginning. And there were definitely throughout the interview, there were, she said some things that had me like, ooh, I don't know, that's not good. I don't like the sound of that. Uh, then she said things that like actually really resonated with me. My turning from being not Christian to Christian. There were some things that she said that it was like, yeah, I experienced that. I know exactly what she's talking about. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go through this. Hopefully, it won't take too long. I've got a bunch of notes on this, so they're not like full pages, all of them, but I got a lot of shit to say here. So just some kind of opening general info on Nala. The churches that she went to as a child reminded me a lot of the churches that I went to as a child. Honestly, I think that one theme that's going to be running throughout this entire thing is find a traditional church. Find a When I say conservative, I don't mean like Republican. I mean conservative traditional church, a church that is trying to conserve the traditions. There are obviously, in my opinion, the Holy Orthodox Church is the best one for that. I'm not even Orthodox. I was an inquirer for a couple months. Then my mom passed, and it just felt right to go to her church with my family. And that was a Free Methodist church. And I love the people at that church. They're all very nice, but I do value the tradition, and there's not much of that. So I felt compelled to start looking around for another church again. And I did think about going back to another Orthodox church, or the Orthodox church that I was going to. But I was like, I'm gonna try out some other ones. So I ended up at a Lutheran church. And as far as Protestant churches go, the Lutheran Church, particularly the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, which is one of the ones that I go to. The one that I go to is one of those, I guess I should say. It's As far as Protestant churches go, it's very traditional. I don't know 100% that I'm going to be there forever. I think Holy Orthodoxy still does call to me pretty strong. I feel a desire. I just have a lot of respect for it, and part of me, I get rubbed the wrong way sometimes with the whole "we are the one true church," But then another part of me really does think that, yeah, that's, I mean, they've maintained the traditions, over 2,000 years. So, anyways, the churches that she went to reminded me a lot of the ones that I went to, and the ones that I went to when I was young, it's like kind of similar to the one that I was going to after my mom passed. Small congregations, not very traditional. Like the church that I was going to before I came to this Lutheran church, um, there's they listen to like YouTube videos for the what's the word? The worship. It's like they play YouTube videos of contemporary worship music, like the kind of worship music that you would hear at like a big mega church, and that's just not really for me. It doesn't do anything for me. The Lutheran church that I go to now, there's an organ and we sing hymns. I like that a lot. That's kind of like tradition from my ethnic heritage. Lutheran's a very German church, and we are strong Germans in my family. So uh, there's definitely there's a similarity that I can see in those churches with mine. She doesn't seem to know a lot about church history or theology. And her dad is a pastor, which I'm going to get into too. Again, like a theme that runs throughout this entire find a traditional church. I don't, there's a lot of people say that the pastor's kids tend to be worse because they rebel and things like that. And I think that she kind of fits into that. But I also like when we get into her, I've got a whole section here about her upbringing and her parents, and I just have a hard time imagining the church congregation is like, yeah, let's make this guy the pastor. We're going to get um, there's a lot of giggling and not understanding from her. Like, Knowles is a pretty smart guy, and he's a smart guy in general, and he knows a lot about the church as well. Uh, at one point she said that she's very interested in anatomy, and he asks her why, and she says because of our Creator. I don't really. It didn't seem like a deep answer. I don't think she really had thought about why. And Knowles interpreted that as the incarnation, about Christ, God becoming man, fully man, fully God. And she didn't seem to know what the word incarnation meant, which, I'm not really shitting on her for that. That's one thing. I don't expect her to be a theologian by any stretch of the means. She's new into it. But it's just something that I noticed. At one point, Noel said "cupio dissolvi," which is Latin, and it means, like I want to be dissolved. I want to be taken. I want to leave this world, the physical world, and enter the spiritual world with God, basically. And she kind of like giggled. She had no idea what that meant, and that again, that's fine. It's just something that I noticed. She said that she started doing OnlyFans at the tail end of COVID, and I just couldn't help but think about how COVID fucking ruined everything, man. Like COVID made the world a much worse place in general. So that was one thing that I thought was interesting. She says she had a hard time feeling that she was very numb. And again, once we get into her childhood and her upbringing, I think that makes sense. She did seem to have a little bit more of a knowledge of the Bible than I was expecting her to, and I think that kind of fits in with being Protestant. That's the whole sola scriptura thing. The Protestants put a ton of value on the Bible and not as much value on traditions and the church fathers and things like that. And I think that there are good arguments for why that is a silly thing to do. I think that the fathers and the traditions are very, very valuable. So she says this kind of ties back into her not really knowing that much about theology. She said that she was thankful to be able to feel now. And Noel said that suffering is good because it gives us, a slight perspective of Christ suffering for us to take our sins. And she said that she just heard yesterday or something like that, just recently had heard. She'd never heard that before. Another thing that I noticed is she would say things like, "Oh my God, my soul is changed forever." And I know some Christians who are like that. Again, they are women. That's one particular young woman that I can think of. Uh, and I don't have a ton of respect or sympathy for the type of churches where those types of people come from. I think that they are the kind of churches that it's like I don't even understand why they're Christian. It's like if you're going to throw out all of the rules and just be like, "Oh, you can do whatever you want. God will forgive you. You just keep sinning and you ask for forgiveness, and you'll be fine." I don't really like that. And some of the stuff that she said did give me that kind of a vibe. Um, on top of that, there was a bunch of like girl boss shit that I'm just not a fan of. I don't necessarily think that it makes her not a Christian, but again, for a lot of these Christian conservative type women who seem to think that we just need to accept her immediately to the point where like I need to be down to marry her. I'm not interested in marrying a girl boss. That is not for me. Maybe it's for some people. Good for you. I was in a voice chat on the King Pill Discord, and so we were talking about this sort of thing, and somebody made a comparison to like the women, like comparing them to cars, and like if you're a master mechanic, you can buy a car that's got some trouble, because you'll be able to fix it. That's fine. Um, but if you're not a master mechanic, you might not want to take that, And I think that there are a lot of men who are not cut out to keep a woman like that in line. Even that, that is assuming that she is sincere and that she's just going to have some issues that she needs to get through, which I've got issues that I need to get through. So again, that's not to say that she's not sincere. That's just saying that I don't think she's for everyone, and for a lot of like I think the feminist misogynist is that turning point lady that Andrew got into it with. She seems to think that every Christian man needs to be willing to take her on as a wife immediately, and I think that's fucking stupid. She makes some corny Christian jokes like in the kind of churches that I grew up in. People would make these kind of corny jokes a lot. She's like, "I thank God for my food, even if it's fried." It's just like silly shit like that, which again doesn't speak to her sincerity. It's just like a tie-in with something that I recognize, something that I have seen in my, church history. And just one more like general thing is so Curtis Yarvin went on Charlie Kirk's podcast, and they were talking at one point about Machiavelli. This happened a lot. This is the only example I can think of off the top of my head. But they would be talking about Machiavelli. And Charlie Kirk said, he wrote that book. He wrote The Princess a Job Interview, and that is not really that didn't really have anything to do with what Curtis Yarvin was saying. So he say it back to him and just move on to his next point. I noticed a lot of that kind of stuff in this too. Like Knowles would be saying something, it wouldn't, she would kind of respond, and it wouldn't really have anything to do with what he was saying. So he would just kind of accept it and move on. So now to get into her parents and her upbringing, she said that when she was very young, her house was destroyed by a tornado, and the tornado, the destroying of her house, was very stressful, and her parents ended up getting divorced. So having everything that you own destroyed and then having your parents divorce, I can see how that would be very stressful. I can see how that would mess a kid. Parents getting divorces is always very hard on small children, which is one of the main reasons that I think that we need to do something about divorce in this country. Not that's I don't think that I'm not encouraging people not to get married. Like I said, I'm not really a red pill guy. I think that we should be getting married, but that's not to say that I think that you need to run out and make a rash decision and marry, somebody who's not ready for that. You can try to make them ready for that all you want, but it's not necessarily going to work out for you. She chalks a lot of her childhood stress up to being a pastor's family, and I don't know how much it had to do with being in the church. It seems to me it had more to do with the fact that her parents were just kind of shitty people. Um, yeah, a lot of pastors' families are fine. I've known some pastors' families, and they did not seem as messed up as her. My dog is like all up in my grill right now. Patton, go lay down. Go lay down. I'm like talking. He thinks I'm talking to him because there's nobody else here. Um, so she also said that they homeschooled her, and I can't help. It's a big thing in like dissident right circles, Christian right circles, libertarian circles of get your kids out of public schools, get them into homeschools. Well, if you are a shitty parent, a a dumb person, maybe you shouldn't homeschool your kids. Like, if you don't have your shit together, I fail to see how it's much better or worse to send them to public schools. Um, so yeah, I just don't. It doesn't strike me as a surprise that she has so many problems that she ended up doing, OnlyFans and things like that. Says that her parents paid attention to the church and not the kids. Um, again, I've seen a bunch of pastors' families, and the pastors seem to be good fathers a lot of the time. I'm sure that there's a lot of them who aren't too. Um, but I do think that she said that her parents got divorced and then they got remarried, and after they got remarried, her father became a pastor, and I just can't imagine what kind of a church will allow a guy who has not been through seminary, has only been a Christian for a few years. How in the world did that guy end up being the pastor of a church? How is that your spiritual father, the guy who's leading you through, um, you know, yeah, I just that's your leader. That's this guy who's like he's new in the faith himself. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, I have a lot of sympathy for Orthodoxy, even though I'm not Orthodox, and it's like all of those priests are highly trained. Same at this Lutheran church that I go to. You have to go through seminary. I don't think that there's such thing as a lay pastor. You guys know what that is. I don't even know if it's much of a thing in a lot of branches, but a lay pastor is a person who didn't really go through seminary. Um, they're just like a knowledgeable person who ends up being the pastor of a church, which I am honestly kind of opposed to be honest. Just to be straight up honest about that. I think that the point of a church community is to hold each other. Well, one of the points is to hold each other to a high ethical and moral standard, and the leaders of the church need to hold themselves, and the congregation needs to hold the leader to that high standard too. And I just fail to see how that's possible with Nala's dad. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, so that's just a little background about her parents. So now I'm going to get into the timeline of like kind of the timeline of the conversation, but also the timeline of her life. She said again she started OnlyFans right at the tail end of COVID. She made $85,000 her first month, which is insane. That is fucking crazy. $85,000 in a month for posting, and she said at that point she wasn't doing actual like um, hardcore adult content, we'll say. She was just posting like nude pictures. $85,000 for taking pictures of yourself naked. That's insane. And it didn't stop there. She made a bunch of money, and that's one thing with that Crucible debate. It's like that dude Octavio said that we need to be leaders towards women, but why, when Nala was in the height of her making millions of dollars on OnlyFans, why would she look at someone like Octavio like a leader? He's not a leader to her. He's just some misguided guy who's trying to convince her to stop making tons and tons of money. So I don't, like I said, Octavio's methods for how we should be leaders. I think he needs to hone that in a little bit. I think he's got a point that we men are the leaders. Is beyond a shadow of a doubt that's true. But when you have a wife, I'm a firm believer that the only way to change women um, right now is find one that you like, find one who likes you, find one that respects you and you respect her, and you can change her in that manner. But this like preach to the masses, they all feed each other's delusions. They're all girl bossing together, and it's never going to work. Um, she said that she was very into anime, video games, and weeb things. I know that's like a person who's really into Japanese culture. Um, and I have to wonder, like, why is anime and video games and cosplay, why is that all so tied up with sex work? I was talking about that in the voice chat on the King Pill Discord last night too. Uh, it's beyond me because I've never really been a fan of that kind of stuff. I watched like Dragon Ball Z. That's about as much anime as I ever got into. She said that her parents found out that she was doing OnlyFans because she was at dinner with them, and a one of the servers popped in and was like, "Oh, are you Nala?" And that's how her parents found out. And then the next day, after that dinner, she was moving from Florida to California. She was moving to California to have more, you know, um, to be able to network more in the adult community, I guess, the OnlyFans community, we'll say. And I've got a clip here. Let's see if I can get this to play.
I know you disapprove. I just want to know if you still love me.
Yeah.
But
can you guys hear this?
I didn't ask
I can't even hear it at my.
But the one thing that my mom said before they walked out the door was just like, "I hope you're happy in your endeavors," and then just left.
Do I have it
broke
muted?
my heart, truly.
1 second.
So,
but she must have been in some
muted.
immense pain.
Absolutely.
Probably felt
All
a
right.
bit of
Well,
guilt.
I don't know if I'll be able to play that clip, but that's fine because it's not even really that important. All right. But basically, she said that she was moving and her parents wouldn't even speak to her. Her mom specifically wouldn't even speak to her. All she said was, "I hope you're satisfied with your endeavors," or something like that. 1 second. You could hear. Well, I couldn't hear it for some reason, so I don't know what that's all about. Let me try this one more time here. Yeah, no, I still can't hear anything. All right, well, I'm gonna have to work on that. I have no idea what that's all about. We've shared video on the podcast before. Okay, so yeah, mother was just like, if they were upset about her doing OnlyFans, like you would think that they would have tried to talk her out of it, but they just kind of like threw her to the wolves. It's like, I don't know. They had like no compassion, no. It didn't. It seemed like they were upset at her, but they were not willing to try to help her and try to convince her not to do that at all. She even said that if someone would have expressed in a loving way that she had worth and she shouldn't be doing that, that she might have been receptive to it. And I think that there's probably some truth to that, and it's worth a shot. Like, uh, what kind of a parent just is like, oh, I'm disappointed in you, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to try to help you or guide you like I'm supposed to. That's very confusing to me. She said that in the 5 years of doing OnlyFans, she was only with 3 partners, 2 of which were her boyfriends. And during that, yeah, I don't know. I have doubt about that. I don't like to accuse people of lying, but that maybe she's telling the truth. Um, and I try to just give people the benefit of the doubt. So, but like I said, I do have doubt about that. Um, a big part of it is that she's lying to these men. She admitted this, that she's lying to them to make them think that they have a chance with her, and that's something that I've noticed. Back before I was a Christian, and I mean, even still, like, porn. It's an addictive thing, and I'm like in a good place with it now. But for a long, long time, I wasn't, and that's one thing I noticed. Back then is that even years ago, before OnlyFans, these like stars would put their Amazon wish list on social media. Just like constantly looking for guys to buy them things. Um, it's just a gross scene. She said that one of her exes was gay baiting. Like, he wasn't really gay. I think that he might have been a little gay, to be honest with you. But uh, she said that she thinks that's gross. And she also at one point said that she thinks that abortion is murder. And I can't help but wonder how many of these liberal people harbor conservative ideas, traditional ideas. And that kind of ties in with Jason from the 2-Bit podcast. He's got this neo-trad thing and something that he calls the apple pie theory. And the idea is that once these liberal people, once it becomes apparent to them that these liberal ideas are not doing them any favors, they'll drop them like a hot potato. And I can't help but wonder if that's kind of what's going on with Nala. You know, I think that maybe she sees that the tides are changing a little bit. People are getting fed up with all of this woke liberal nonsense. Um, so yeah, that neo trad thing is going to pop up a little bit throughout here too. She said that she had no concept of what a good marriage was, and then a couple minutes later, she says that she's married now. She's been a Christian for a couple months, and now she's married to some guy. And more power to them. Good for them. I hope that it works out. I hope that they're happy, but that seems crazy to me. Um, Again, I hope that everything works out for them, but I worry for that guy. That seems an insane risk. I don't think that she's irredeemable. What is the point of Christianity if there's no redemption? What is the point? Why don't we all just be nihilists? Why don't we all be nihilists and we'll all give in to hedonism? We'll just do what makes you happy now. Partake in physical pleasures of various kinds, and just do that till you die. If there's no chance for redemption, I don't see a reason not to do that. Um, you know what? 1 second here. I got an idea for why I might not be able to hear this. Bear with me, folks. Sorry for the dead air again. I'm doing this from a laptop, so I have like limited things that I can plug into this. So I have to use Bluetooth, Bluetooth headphones, and I think that they might not be connected. I think that might be the issue here. Doesn't seem like they want to connect either. So I'll just keep talking about this, and I'll try to figure it out as I'm doing it. No concept of what a good marriage was. Okay, another thing. What kind of church? I don't claim to be an expert in orthodoxy or anything like that. But I can't. I know for a fact that you would not walk in. You would not walk into an Orthodox church and say, "I want to get married," and they would do it for a member of the church. Whoa, one second. I think I figured out. I think I figured out the audio issue here. Let's see here. If I did. Okay. All right. Sorry again here, guys. Let me figure this out. I definitely have sound now, so we should be good. Share. All right. Let's see if this works.
On a day-to-day basis, and I had met my current husband now on TikTok.
So that's is that news?
Yes, that's good news. Yes, it's very, very new news. I have a husband. I got married.
Marvelous.
So yeah.
And when did that happen?
This last Sunday. Yeah.
So we're filming this on what day is it? It's Wednesday?
Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah.
So and have you made a public announcement about this?
Nope.
So am I like the 15th person to find this out or something?
You're like the 7th person to find this out.
Right. Wow.
Not even my parents know.
That's great. Well, one does not congratulate a woman on getting.
So yeah, like I said, I am a Knowles appreciator. I like Michael Knowles, but I do. It's like I know that he doesn't want to like push back on her too hard because he invited her here for a friendly conversation, but she tells him that he got married or that she got married, and he says marvelous and great. And I don't know, like part of me can't help but wonder, like, is it marvelous? Is it great? I just don't know. You know, it seems sketchy to me, but I don't know. Like on one hand, I talk a big game about thinking that people should get married and have kids. So I don't know. Maybe it is a good thing. So she said that she got baptized, and that's another thing. Like you would not be able to just walk into an Orthodox church and get married, or I'm sorry, get baptized. You have to go through the catechesis. You got to be a catechumen for, I think some people end up being a catechumen for about a year. So, that's quite the buildup. You don't just walk in off the street and get baptized. And I think that there's good reason for that, So she said that she was from California. He was from Virginia. They got together for the first time they met somewhere. I think they said Nashville. And they stayed, and she said they stayed in separate rooms. And that I couldn't help but think of Brian Atlas from whatever. He's got this, this argument that for a woman to sleep with a bunch of guys, and then when she finds a guy that she really likes to, for that to be the time where she's like, no, I'm going to make you wait. That is kind of a raw deal for the good guy. Now, as a Christian, I think the guy should not be wanting that. I mean, you're going to want it. We're human beings, but you have to resist that, So I think that's good. It's good that they slept in separate rooms. But for people who are secular, I don't think that. I do think that that's kind of a raw deal for a secular guy. It's like, oh, I'm trying to be. I'm a nice guy, and you gave it up for everyone else, and you're gonna make me wait. So I just think that was a kind of an interesting situation. 1 second here. So she says that she was single for 2 years, and not doing hardcore on OnlyFans. But she was still posting the nudes and things like that. And all of the hardcore content that she had posted was still up, you know? So, yeah, you know, she acted like she had taken some vow of celibacy. And it's hard for me to take that serious as like you're taking this virtuous vow of celibacy when you're still, you know, disseminating pornographic material of yourself and making a bunch of money from it. That just seems goofy to me. She also said that he didn't know about her OnlyFans, which I have a hard time believing. She said they met on TikTok. She wasn't promoting her OnlyFans on her TikTok like they all do. And he just didn't do any research into this girl that he was into. A lot of it just seems sketchy to me. At one point, I thought this was an interesting interaction. She said that her husband told her that she was his best friend, and she felt the same way. And Noel said something interesting, which I had never really conceptualized this way. Noel said that his wife will be like, Michael, am I your best friend? And he straight up says no. That is a separate office. There's the office of wife, and that there's the office of best friend. And I'm sorry, I'm reading some comments here. I'll get to those in a second. So I know what Knowles is saying. Like I said, I never conceptualized it that way. I've never been married, but I've been in serious relationships. One in particular where, the guy that I host the podcast with, Chris, I've been best friends with him for 32 years. We've been best friends for a long time. He is my best friend. But when I was with this woman, I would say that we were closer. She knew me better than anyone on the planet. And so I do understand what he says. Like, saying that your wife isn't your best friend, it's not like an insult. It's just a separate office. And I just thought that was interesting. I think that's a valid way of putting it. Let me read some of these comments here. Yeah, $85,000 a month. That's right. Volume is good. Is you telling me you could hear it? I got that figured out. It's embarrassing that I have to figure that out live, but still working out the kinks. Exactly. No participation trophies in Orthodoxy. That's right. You have to be, you have to be about it. The poor guy she married. Yeah. So I've got some more notes on that. The guy, so he was in the Air Force. He seems like he's a handsome devil. He's a like a kind of a pretty boy looking guy. But yeah, he seems like maybe he's a little bit of a simp, to be honest. I'm not trying to be too much of a dick to the guy. Like I said, I hope it works out for them, but he seems like he's maybe a little bit of a simp. He apparently he makes a living on TikTok too. So that's interesting. These social media couples. Let's see, where was I here? Oh, so this is another thing that like kind of ties in with that neo-trad apple pie theory of Jason's. She said that they are, going all in on those kind of traditional marriage roles, and like that he is going to be the provider. And I wonder, it's like, you have $9 million. Is this guy really going to be the provider? I don't know. I just I have a hard time believing that. Maybe she'll be able to get that like materialism and whatnot under, in check. Who am I to say that she won't be able to? But I don't think it's wrong of me to be skeptical about that. I think it's perfectly fine. And that's kind of my whole point, is like a lot of these these Christian people who are saying it's wrong of us to be skeptical. I just don't agree at all. I think it's fine to be skeptical. I do think I'm going to get to it. I don't think that we should be like turning people away. I think that that's completely wrong too. So another thing that she said, and I've heard this quite a bit on the Whatever podcast. A lot of these women seem to think that traditional values mean that I cook and I clean for my man, and that's like the extent of what traditional values means. It's about more than that, you know. It's not about baking cakes. It's not about cooking nice dinners. I mean, that's a nice plus, you know. When I'm married, I hope that my wife's a good cook. I'm a good cook, but I don't want to be doing all the cooking, you know. Let's see here. Yeah, her boyfriend, she got baptized before they got married. I kind of already touched on that. Like you're not going to walk into an Orthodox church or a Catholic church. I really don't know too much about the Lutheran church yet. I'm still learning, but it doesn't seem like you're going to walk in and get baptized right off the street with them either. And that's just crazy. That's crazy to me. I already said the guy seems like a little bit of a simp. So she told her parents that she wasn't doing OnlyFans anymore. And, you know, much like a lot of these, like the red pill, like her parents seem like red pillars, you know, it's like her saying that she wasn't doing OnlyFans anymore didn't seem to matter to them at all, which is crazy to me. You know, like I can't imagine. I don't have kids, but I am, you know, I have parents and I have strayed away. You know, I was raised in the church and I rejected it in my like middle teenage years and was an atheist for a long time. And then I kind of came into like the spiritual, not religious thing. You know, I was like doing mushrooms, man. You know, we're all God, man. We're all one. And I mean, I think that there's some kind of truth in that. I think that we're all one in the sense that we're all God's creations, but I kind of passed out of that. And, you know, thank God I got called to come back to the church. But when I came back, my mom was thrilled. My grandparents were gone at that point, but my grandma would have been thrilled too. I wish that she could have seen it, but my mom was thrilled. I remember the first time I walked into a Bible study, I always like to surprise my mom with things like that. And I walked into the Bible study and she just lit up. Like she could not believe that I was there. And to hear her say that her parents were just like not supportive at all of her not doing OnlyFans anymore is just completely confusing to me. I can't imagine that. I'm having a little trouble reading my own handwriting here. You know, okay, so one thing that Andrew says is that, and I agree with this, if you have a child who is, you know, sinning and unrepentant, and it's in an area like doing OnlyFans or doing drugs, I think it's fine to like stop supporting that child, to be like, no, I can't support you until you stop doing this. You know, you're cut off. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But when they come back, you know, it's like the prodigal son. And a lot of people are saying that, you know, she's like the prodigal daughter. And I don't know, you know, she's going to have to prove that to me. But I'm not involved in her salvation. That's between her and God. All I can do is take her at her word. And if she stumbles, then yeah, I'm not obligated to say, yeah, she's still a Christian. But I don't know. I think that, it's like there's this idea that I've heard in Orthodoxy, and I'm not sure if it's in other branches of Christianity, but I think that it should be. There's this idea that the church is a hospital for sick people. And a hospital can't treat patients that it turns away. You know, if a person shows up at a hospital and they're having a heart attack and the hospital's like, nope, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you're having a heart attack. You know, they're not going to be helped. And if a person is coming back to the church after a life of sin and we're like, I don't believe you, you know, I don't think that helps. That pushes them away. That makes them not likely to really adopt the truth of the church. I can't help but think of one of my favorite bands is Tool, and Maynard, the lead singer, his mom was a devout Christian of some Protestant stripe. I'm not really sure what, but she got some kind of a disease, and the last few years of her life were just miserable. And then she died, and somebody from her mom's church said something to the effect of that it must have been some kind of punishment from God. And that just completely turned, you know, he's like, you know, like pretty much hardcore anti-Christianity. And I think it was the actions of Christians that pushed him away from the church. You know, that's like one more person who is extremely unlikely to come back to the church. And I just don't think that's good. I think as Christians, we need to be welcoming. You know, I'm not saying that we have to. I'm not saying that. I think that there's a chance that this Nala woman could be you know doing some kind of a Christian grift. But until that's proven through her actions, I feel obligated to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I don't see what's wrong with that. I think that is a good position to take. You know. And a whole lot of people disagree, but I've noticed that a lot of the people who disagree are not even Christians, you know? So it's hard for me to take their opinion seriously. Let's see here. I got a couple more comments. You think Knowles is saying excellent to Nala's marriage because he thinks of marriage as Catholic marriage, which would be a good thing in his mind because there's much context. Yeah, I can see that, but like, it's hard for me to believe that Knowles would be taking it as Christian marriage, or I'm sorry, Catholic marriage, because she's not Catholic, and the Catholic, you know, I'm not Catholic. I have less experience with the Catholic Church than, you know, the other ones that I've talked about, but I doubt that you're going to walk into a Catholic church and be given a Catholic marriage unless you are Catholic, you know? So, just to kind of wrap up some of the things that I thought about. So throughout listening to the whole thing, she would say things, like I said earlier, she would say things that made me skeptical. And then she would say things that like resonated with me in my journey back to the church. Some of those things were, let's see here. She said that she regrets. I thought that this was an interesting thing. She said that she regretted doing OnlyFans, but that she wouldn't take it back because it makes her testimony strong. And I think that there's truth in that. The testimony of somebody who has lived a life of sin and came out of that is powerful, you know. And she cited Paul, who was killing Christians, you know. I don't think that she's comparing herself to Paul. You know, that's kind of, you know, borderline sacrilegious. But I do think that that's, you know, that is kind of valid. I also think of, I think it's Saint Mary of Egypt, who was, you know, a prostitute, you know, just living a very promiscuous life. And I think she's the one, she tried to enter a church and she like physically was not able to enter the church. Like there was like a force field over the door. She couldn't even go in. And she ended up becoming a saint, you know? So that's definitely something to consider. You know, I'm definitely not saying that Nala is a saint. Don't spurg out or anything. She's definitely got a lot of work to do, but so do I. You know, one thing that I've heard in the Orthodox tradition is that we are all the most wretched sinner on the planet. I am the most wretched sinner on the planet, and I subscribe to that. I've done terrible, terrible things, and I changed. Like my transformation from who I was to who I am now, there's definitely been a real change in me that I've noticed. So that resonates with me. Again, there was all kind of girl boss stuff. Like she said, I'm a leader. I'm an independent woman. I can do whatever I want, which is just kind of cringe, and in a Christian marriage, the man is supposed to be the head. And this guy who I said seems like kind of a simp. Like, I wonder if he puts his foot down on something that prevents her from doing what she wants, is boss bitch Nala going to come back? Is she going to be the alpha female and not take anything that he says seriously? Because that would be a problem for them, it would be, I'll say this, it would be a problem for me. Maybe it's not a problem for this guy, more power to him if it's not. At one point she said, I treat people very well. Even back then she treated people very well. And I don't have a hard time believing that she was like kind to her friends and things like that. But does her treating people very well, does that include the men that she admitted to lying to fuel their sexual fantasies about her? Does that include the men that she was poisoning with lust for 5 years and making millions of dollars on it? Was she treating those people well? So I just can't help but see a little bit of cognitive dissonance there. So that was a red flag a little bit. More cognitive dissonance was that she was working to get the content. So she took her OnlyFans down, but stuff gets leaked. So one of the things about OnlyFans is that I don't know if it's basically like copyrighted or something like that. If somebody takes your content and they puts it up, you can get it taken down. And she said that she's working to get that kind of stuff taken down. And it seemed like she was saying that she's trying to get it taken down because it's embarrassing to her, which is fine. That is embarrassing. If you've come back to Christ and you've got this past where there's just tons of content of you, tons of adult content of you on the internet, I can see how that would be embarrassing. But I just didn't see a lot of sympathy for the men. I guess there could be women too, but I don't see a lot of sympathy for the people who are being poisoned by that lust that she's putting out. So that was a little bit of a red flag for me. She said, so this was something that I saw as positive, and it's that her OnlyFans is gone. I saw actually earlier today on Twitter that Pearl is saying that it's not gone. She's just like got it in some kind of like pause, or it's like on hold. But she can like reactivate it whenever she wants. But then I saw some other people saying that that's not true. And I think I've got something on Pearl in here. I'm not a huge fan of Pearl. I think that a lot of what Pearl gets into, a lot of what she says is good and right, but she seems like, honestly, kind of an attention whore in her own way. Like, I get the impression that she doesn't really care about, the legitimacy of the church or men. I feel like she's trying to build a name for herself. I always kind of get that impression for Pearl. Maybe I'm wrong. I know a lot of people that I like Pearl. Andrew, for one. I've already said on this stream a bunch of times I'm a huge fan of Andrew, and Andrew likes Pearl. She just rubs me the wrong way a little bit. But yeah, so that was something. So she did get rid of her OnlyFans. She got rid of her Twitter, which, there's a bunch of horny dudes on Twitter. And now that you can get paid for your engagement, that's a legitimate source of income that she cut off. So I think that's impressive. She does still have an Instagram. It's scrubbed. of all of her like more like really lewd content, which is good. I will say that there are still some pictures on there that if I was in a relationship, I would not be happy about some of even those pictures. Like there's one, she's in a gym and she's like very obviously taking a picture of her butt. You know, it's like I wouldn't be happy about that, but that's between her and her husband. There's also a lot of I don't even know how to say this word, the ahagao. It's that stupid like anime face that people do. And that's, to my knowledge, again, I'm not the biggest anime guy, but I think that that's an explicitly sexual thing. You know, that ahagao or whatever the fuck it is. It's an explicitly sexual thing, and she's still got a bunch of those on there. It's not nudity, but it's inherently sexual. So I would have a problem with that too, to be honest with you. Yeah, like I said though, that is between her and her husband, but that does make me wonder again, back to if at some point this guy says, yeah, I don't really like that butt picture that you have on Instagram. I want you to take that down. A lot of the stuff that she said in this interview makes me think that she would throw a hissy fit, and you know that could potentially be the end of the marriage. I don't know. One second here. I got Trey. I see you in the chat. How's it going, man? You say that that's not an anime thing. Why is it? That's a hentai thing, which is porn. Okay, so yeah, I guess I forgot that there is a difference, that like actually adult content anime is called hentai, which I guess is a separate thing. Yeah, that's something to consider. I like I said, I don't really know a lot about that kind of stuff, so you know, I don't know what to say about that. That's not an anime thing. That's a hentai thing. It's just drawn anime style, which is why everyone gets confused. That makes sense. You know, I can't dispute that. Ali says good points for sure, and super sad about Maynard. Yeah, like I said, that's one of my favorite bands, and that guy, his lyrics, he's obviously not an atheist, and I think that those type of people could be brought back. I mean, that's where I was. Like I said, I was an atheist. And then I started taking acid and mushrooms, man, and it opened my mind, and, you know, and that kind of opened the door, like that combination of being open to the spiritual world and also listening to people like Jordan Peterson, who honestly at this point, I don't think that Jordan Peterson is sufficiently traditional or conservative, but he was a great gateway for me. You know, he played a big part. His biblical lectures played a big part in me taking Christianity seriously again. So, Trey, one second, man. I agree that I'm not a fan of Pearl or Nala, but the way that people hate Pearl and they just side with Nala makes me wary that it's just a mimetic thing. Yeah. So that's kind of something that I've been saying in this. Like, I haven't seen a lot of the people who I've just been seeing side with Nala are these like female Christians who I just don't, I think that it's like self-serving of them to be saying that kind of stuff. You know, it's like, I'm sure that they have past too, like we all do. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, kind of my whole point with this is that I don't see a sensible center for the Nala thing. So, you know, I'm with you on that. I think that it is goofy, and it very well could be a mimetic thing. Let's see here. Back to my notes. Oh, so there's another adult star. Her name was Allura Jensen. You know, she didn't do OnlyFans. She like came up in, you know, the actual corn industry, you know, whatever, you know, there's like OnlyFans, and then there's the, you know, the production companies that are producing, you know, back in the days, it used to be VHS and DVD, and now it's all pretty much online. But it's not OnlyFans. It's like actual production companies. And she came up in that, and now she is a Christian too. And she, tries to pull women out of the porn industry, but she actually does have an OnlyFans now, and she still has a website, and I think that she's still making money on it. Now, like I said, that's like production company thing. So maybe she doesn't have rights to it, and maybe she can't get it taken down. Maybe the companies that produce that content, they have the right to put it up. And if that's true, that sucks for her. I don't know. I would love to know whether she is still peddling filth, but I have no idea. I don't know how to find that out. And I'm surreptitiously in her Facebook group, where it's like a Christian group now. Her real name is Elizabeth Marie Spraggins, I think. And I've been in there like trying to see if I can like suss out whether she's still selling and making money off of porn, but I have no idea. I don't know what to think. Like, part of me hopes that she's not, but then she's got a bunch of like creepy people who are still selling her likeness, having all sorts of vile things done to her. So, if that's the case, that sucks for her. But if she is making money off of it, that's reprehensible. To act like you're against it, but still be raking in money from it, that's disgusting. So the whole Nala situation called that to mind, because that Allura Jensen person's been on my radar for like probably about a year. I've been trying to suss out what the situation is there. Let's see here. Okay, so one thing she said is that she respected. She says that she could respect her husband because he respected her. And again, this just comes back to, what happens when he insists that she do something that she doesn't want to do, because he biblically is supposed to be the head of the household. I can't help but wonder about all the boss lady shit. How is that going to work out for them? It makes me skeptical. That's one of the things. I just don't know what to think about it. She says at one point that she couldn't be a sugar baby because I couldn't be a sugar baby. I would overtake that man in a heartbeat. I don't know what to think about that. That seems kind of girl bossy to me. And I do think that I don't think that women like Nala are completely irredeemable, but I do think if she's going to be married and in a Christian relationship, it's going to take a specific special kind of man. And I'll straight up tell you, it ain't me. I don't think that I'm cut out for that. It's beyond my powers. Like I said earlier with the car thing, if you're a master mechanic, go ahead and buy a lemon. You can fix it. But if you're not a master mechanic, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time and energy. And I think that that's true for a lot of these people too. If you think that you're the type of man who can fix someone like that, more power to you. Give it a shot. I do encourage people to get married. I encourage people to have kids, but you need to be careful. You need to know what you're getting into. And I do think that is a problem that I see with a lot of Christian content creators, is that they're just like, get married, get in there. It doesn't, don't be cautious at all. And I think that Matt Erickson and Cooper from the King Pill podcast have, the last like 3 streams of theirs, they've been talking about that. And I fully agree with them. And they've been really hurting a lot of people's feelings. I don't think that I am better than Nala, or, just like not even an OnlyFans person, but, the girl down the street who's been with 50 guys, she's 30 and she's been with 50 guys. I don't think that she's irredeemable. And I don't think that, like I said, I had a big problem with porn, and can I honestly look at you people and say that I don't think 2 decades worth of watching porn, it didn't have any effect on me. I know for a fact that it did have an effect on me. I've got all kinds of problems. I've got all kinds of like hang-ups from that sort of thing that have made my life, they've caused problems in my life, just to be 100% upfront, so I think that we all have problems, and for men to be acting like the women are completely irredeemable, it's like, well, are you completely irredeemable? Do you view yourself as completely irredeemable? And I've made a ton of mistakes, but I don't think that I'm irredeemable. I think that it's going to take a lot of work, and I think that I'm doing the work, and that's what I want to see from Nala in the future. Like I said, my instinct is to give her the benefit of the doubt. My instinct is to give all people who come back to the church the benefit of the doubt until they prove to me that was a bad idea on my part. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's like a lot of these guys, they're like, I want an 18-year-old virgin trad wife. It's like, you're not going to get that, man. They want a perfect 10. And this is something that I said in the King Pilled voice chat last night. They're looking for a perfect 10, but you need to find a relative 10 to you. You know what I'm saying? Judge the 10. Water meets its level, like that kind of thing. You can find someone who's perfect for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be dating a supermodel or, the virgin trad wife. I just think that we need to be realistic with our expectations. She talks about, okay, so this is one of the things that she said that I identified with. She talks about when she opened herself up, or, some people view it different ways. Some people, it's like, okay, God decided that it was finally time for you to come back. And I think that that's a valid way of looking at it too. But I remember, I was spiritual, not religious. And I was kind of open to, Christian morality. But I was like, oh, I can ape the morality, and I don't need to actually believe, that it's all real. And I remember I was driving back to work from my lunch break, and something inside of me just clicked. And I was like, no, I'm doing this the wrong way. Like I do have to believe, and that kind of seemed like what she was saying. So I identify with that. It's hard for me to hear that and think that that's not genuine, because that's exactly how I felt. And I got another clip here. Let me pull this up.
The veil tore, correct? Like it was the separation was now completely divided between like the old law, was now no longer, and that Jesus had covered everyone's sins in his blood. So it was like this veil had torn. I was like blinking, and I was like, why does everything look different? Like this is the same room, but it looks different. And then when I go outside, the sun is even brighter and the trees are even greener. And I can smell. And I was crying, and I have feelings. And I was like shocked for the next couple of.
All right. So what she's saying there, that line, when you accept Jesus, the veil tears and the old law is gone and the blood is shed for your sins. That is exactly, like I said, there was a girl who was a friend of our family, and she went to one of those kind of mega churches. And that is exactly the kind of rhetoric that they would use to justify continuing to sin. It's like, yes, you've accepted Christ, and his blood was sacrificed for your sins, but you also have to attempt to live a Christian life. You can't just keep doing what you're doing, and use Christ's sacrifice as a get out of jail free card. That is like straight up, it's like sacrilegious in my mind. Let's see here. I got a couple of more comments. Trey. It's making it hard for me to fucking read these things. Disagree that it's what these men necessarily want, and I think the data backs it up, since men will sleep with almost anything that walks. Yeah, men will sleep with anything that walks, but will men marry anything that walks? I'm not really sure of the context of when you said that. So if you want to clarify, I'd be happy to read that. I'm just not really sure what you meant. Zach says, we've all been swimming in feminism. It can be tough to discern who we can try to swim to safety with versus those that are trying to actually drown us with them. Yeah, that's for sure, man. It's definitely that's a part that I'm coming up to here, is the negative implications of what happens if we do blindly accept someone and then they are not sincere, so I'll get to that. She did say that she felt an immediate compulsion to delete her OnlyFans. And it was weird. Like, there kept being these things where she would say something that I was skeptical about, and then she would say something immediately. It was like, okay, she seems like maybe she understands that. And the thing with that was, it's like her feeling that compulsion to delete her OnlyFans, that to me, it indicates that maybe she does like grasp the go and sin no more thing, I think that's good that she felt the compulsion to take it down. Okay, let's see here. Trey responded. You were saying that these men want to marry tens, and given the type of guys that are even in this position, I don't think that they are in a position to even make that ask. So I don't think that's it. Yeah, it could be, it's hard to tell. Yeah, I can't fully disagree with you. I'm just not sure. She said that she felt she needed to be more modest, but then again, like I said, she's got that picture on Instagram where she's pretty clearly showing off her butt. That doesn't seem like the most modest thing in the world to me. It seems like more cognitive dissonance, So Knowles brings up Pearl, and he brings up the fact that Pearl is saying that Nala's not sincere. Nala's going pretty hard on Pearl. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Pearl. It seems like I don't think that she cares about Nala. I really don't think that she cares about the church. I think that she's drumming up internet drama to get views, which, whatever. But I just don't buy her concern is sincere. And Knowles says that he does think that she's sincere. And it's just like I said, where I was in the beginning is that I am comfortable giving her the benefit of the doubt. Part of me does wish that Knowles would have pressed her a little bit harder on some of the stuff that she said. But I also think that it takes all types, I think that you could have somebody come in and have a conversation with someone like Michael Knowles, and it's good that he is kind of gentle and like inviting, and like he wants to bring people into the church. He wants to facilitate the growth of people's faith, which I think is good. But I also, to tie this back into what we were talking about in the beginning, I think that there's value in people like Andrew too. Now, that's not to say that if Andrew Wilson had a conversation with someone that he would, I've seen Andrew be very kind to people and, kind of like walk people through logic. But if they refuse, then, I think if they refuse to take that walk down logic lane, I think it's fine to be a little bit more rough with them. You have to try to get them to understand, I don't know. Like I said, I think it takes all kinds of people. So I sometimes I do wish that Knowles would have been a little bit harder on her with some of the stuff, but I kind of do understand why he didn't. Yeah, like somebody like Andrew is not going to let those cognitive dissonance moments slide. And I appreciate that, but I appreciate the way Knowles did it too. I think that there's value in both. This is kind of addressing the thing that Zach said. I think that if she turns away from the church, she's going to make a ton more money. Like, there's a way that you could look at this where it's just a grift and she's just trying to build up interest in herself. That way, when she goes back, she gets a ton of new subscribers, because that is what would happen. We all know that is what would happen. And I do think that if that is what happens, it's going to make it harder for a lot of people to take the Christian faith seriously. I already kind of see that going on. It's like people are like, oh, Christianity is not a serious religion. They're just like, they'll just let anyone in. And I have problems with that, because what else are we supposed to do? Like I said, there needs to be a road to redemption. And if there's not, let's all just be nihilists, Let's see here. Yeah, I think that, like I said, the church is a hospital for sick people, and we can't just like willy-nilly turn people away. I think that we are obligated to give them the benefit of the doubt on some level. That doesn't mean that we have to buy into it completely. It doesn't mean we need to rubber stamp everything that person says. But I think that I've seen a lot of people who I think they could be a little bit more charitable, just to be perfectly frank. She says at one point that she understands that some people will have a hard time praying for her. I didn't really know what she meant by that, but I kind of took it as she knows that people are going to have a hard time accepting her right away. That's a self-aware thing to say, She admits that she has a hard time praying for her dad, which I don't know. That seems like a sincere thing to share. It's not evidence of anything really. But it does. She said that it's hard for her to pray for her dad because her dad caused a ton of pain in their family. And I just can't, again, I can't help but it's like, this guy was a pastor, this guy who, like I said, find a traditional church. I think that everyone would be, it would be beneficial for everyone to be a part of a church that is more traditional than not. And it just doesn't seem like she had that kind of faith tradition in her childhood. And from the things she said, it doesn't seem like that's the faith tradition that she's involved in now. It seems like she's in one of these wishy-washy churches that will allow you to sin in whatever ways you want, just as long as you ask for forgiveness. Don't worry about trying to be better. Come in, get baptized right off the street. You don't need to, all of that kind of stuff that I've talked about before. So, that's concerning. She says that she knows she's a baby Christian. That was her term. Which that's self-awareness to me. Like she doesn't seem overly preachy. Like that is one thing. Like I said, I feel very drawn to Eastern Orthodoxy. But there is an element of the online Orthodox sphere where it's like these people have been a catechumen for 2 months and they're already like they're already like preaching theology to people. It's like, you should probably just keep your mouth shut, you know? And I appreciated that from her. Like, she talked about what she understood, but she, you know, like I said, Knowles knows a whole lot more about Christianity than she does. And she wasn't like, that's something that happens on the Whatever podcast. These women will like lecture Christian people like Chase or Andrew about Christianity. It's like, what do you know about Christianity? You don't seem to know anything. That's a common thing on X and things like that too. These people who are admittedly atheists are like, well, Christianity says this. It's like, what do you know about Christianity? I don't value your opinion on Christianity even a little bit, you know? So I don't know. She seems sincere in that regard. She doesn't seem like she's acting like she's got it all figured out, which I appreciate. I try to be like that. Andrew is very nice, Allie says. Agreed. Andrew's a hell of a guy. You know, he's got this reputation for being a big meanie, and he can be very aggressive in the debates. But Andrew and Rachel Wilson have been nothing but kind to me, and I just appreciate them. You know, they've been very helpful. Andrew didn't have to invite me to moderate that debate. That was very nice of him to do. So, yeah, let's see. We've got another comment here. It does seem like she is actually trying. Perhaps doing it so publicly is her way of having to really be held accountable. That's a good point that I didn't even really consider, that like, when you make that sort of thing public, it's like you're saying, all right, I want you to hold my feet to the fire. It's like, if you do everything in private, you can let yourself get away with all kinds of things, you know? But if you do it out in public, you have your own personal convictions to keep you on the right path, but you also have a bunch of people who are watching you, and it will be embarrassing for you. You know, so that's a good point. I didn't think about that at all. Trey says new ortho bro converts are particularly bad. Honestly, I agree. Like I said, I was going to that Orthodox church, then my mom passed, and I was going to the Protestant church, and it just wasn't for me. And the ortho bro presence online was a big factor in why I didn't go back to an Orthodox church. It wasn't like the biggest factor. The biggest factor was just curiosity, honestly, and just kind of trying to be led by the Spirit. You know, people say that kind of a thing, and that's what I did. It's like I felt a desire to check out the Lutheran church, and I did check out the church that I'm going to, and I've felt comfortable there. So that's where I've stayed for the most part. And you start developing relationships with people in the congregation, and it makes it hard to leave. But I do suspect that one of these days it's likely that I will go back to an Orthodox church. I have a lot of respect for the truth and the theology and the tradition of the Orthodox Church. So I can see myself going back for sure. So this is kind of the last section here. Michael Knowles asks her if you could give any advice to women, particularly women who are doing OnlyFans and things like that. It's like, what would you say to them? And she says, get out, reach out to me. You have worth. So that kind of thing. I appreciate the concern for the women who are in that industry. I think it's good. I think that we should be compassionate for them. But when she said that, it just jumped out at me. She's not saying anything about the men, the men that she poisoned for years. I am willing to admit that those men are poisoning themselves too. But it's like Octavio in that debate. He wants to absolve the women of all of their responsibility. And I'm not on board with that. I think that both the men and the women have responsibility. And she shows this compassion for the women. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But kind of like it happened all the way through to the debate, I got my hackles up about that. And then immediately Michael Knowles was like, what about the men? And I actually have a clip another clip from that too. So let me pull that up real quick. Last clip, so I won't be stumbling through this anymore. Let's see here. Show on stream. Here we go.
Important to realize your worth, and I'm here to tell them you have worth. You, even if you don't know me and I don't know you personally, you are worth it because God created you. God says that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Like you are his creation. God did not intend for us to do this with our bodies, to help others sin and get lost. Like it's not just about you at this point. When you put yourself out there like that, you are actively putting men at risk.
Do you feel bad about the guys?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I want to cry because I've thought about this so heavily because of what I've made them do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I can't take it back. And that's the worst thing about this because you do. When you realize it, you cannot take it back.
Right.
And I really want to start crying. It's like I helped you do that. I helped you destroy yourself. And you paid a price for it, which is even worse. Like,
Well, literal, like a financial price. but then also
financial
obviously
price for it.
relational.
And it felt so innocent in my head at the time.
right.
Like I didn't think anything of it. But
Right.
now that like I have like accepted Jesus in my heart, it's like this heaviness. God's not condemning me for it.
No.
But it's conviction for sure.
And you're recognizing something that is sometimes missing in the feel-good religion, which is either missing the point of absolution, total absolution given to you by God, or missing the simultaneous reality, which is the temporal effects owing to sin.
Yes.
That still exists,
It does.
and you can't take it back. You can receive total absolution,
Forgiveness, yes.
but
And repentance.
but there is still the temporal effects of sin, and that's
So yeah, like I said, I got my hackles up about that, and then Knowles comes in clutch with the good question, and I don't know that being where the interview really ended did just kind of cement my position on it. It's like, no, I'm not willing to accept without question that my dog is being crazy again. That she is 100% sincere. Like I don't think that she should have been baptized that quickly. I've got a real problem with that kind of stuff. But I don't think that she should be turned away either. And I don't think that she's irredeemable. I think that she's a human being just like all of us. I think that I am the most wretched sinner on the planet. And so is she. She should feel that way about herself. I think that that's kind of how we should all feel. I don't know, that being where the interview ended just kind of cemented that the way that I felt about it going in, I didn't really feel any differently. And maybe I even felt more comfortable giving her the benefit of the doubt. So that's just kind of where I landed on it. And I think that it would do good for both sides, both extreme sides, the red pillars and the crazy Christian women, to try to meet in the middle a little bit. And I'm generally not the guy advocating for centrism, but I think that it would be valuable in these types of scenarios. I don't think that opening the church up as a hospital to sick people is, I don't think that is, I don't think that makes the good churches the same as these goofy churches that will baptize somebody right off the street, So that's just kind of where I land on it. I'm going to read these comments here. Trey says, I'll be honest, I'm Southern Baptist, and I've always been, and I don't hate the Orthodox Church, but online orthobros are incredibly annoying. Yeah, man, I definitely feel that. I'm not going to name any names or anything, but yeah, there's definitely some people on there who, I'm not even talking about like the new catechumens. I think that even some of the people who are more, they're members of the church. Sometimes I think that they can be very annoying, but not all of them. Some of them are great, man. And I particularly like my favorite Orthodox person online is Father Josiah Trenum. I love that guy. And I can't help but notice that the types of things that he says a lot of times are completely not even in the same world as the type of stuff the Ortho Bros are saying, So I definitely understand what you're saying there. Trey also says, I understand the criticism of modern Protestantism, and much of it I agree with, but the way that other churches go after mine makes me further entrenched that I made the right choice. Yeah, I can respect that for sure, man. There's maybe an element of that to why I'm trying to stick it out at this Lutheran church so much. Like I said, there's an aspect of me staying at the Lutheran church that is just I'm doing what I feel led to be doing. And then there's the aspect of developing relationships in that community that makes it harder to leave. But yeah, when people attack you and attack the group that you're a part of, it does make you want to dig your heels in. And I think that if a lot of Orthodox people do believe that the Orthodox Church is the true church, maybe try to be a little bit more welcoming to people, maybe try to draw people in. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar, that kind of a thing. And a lot of the online Ortho Bros are very vinegary. Lewis Joyston says, sounds like she did acknowledge the harm she's done to the men. I agree. Like I said, I was skeptical throughout the whole thing. I was back and forth. But that last part, that made me, I was like, okay, all right, I'm definitely willing to give Nala the benefit of the doubt for the time being. Trey says, it's the church of my father and my grandfather, so I feel a tie to those traditions. I can definitely appreciate that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that the Bible specifically says to honor your father and mother, and I think that extends back beyond your father and mother to your grandfather and your grandmother, and all the way back. So yeah, if you are honoring your family, if that's a part of it, I think that's extremely respectable. Ali says, wow, I now need to watch this whole interview. I'm happy she said that for real. I think it was a great way to end the interview. I will say it's a 2.5 hour interview, and it is, sometimes it's kind of boring. Like I said, I slogged through it just because I was trying to do this video. Maybe set it to 1.5, 2 times speed, something like that, because it's a long one. Ali says, Trey, I see what you're saying, and family traditions community is an amazing thing to have. Yep, I completely agree. But yeah, that's basically it. This stream was, I'm still ironing out the kinks, but I feel like this one was better. You guys could at least hear me this time, whereas when I had Kyle Matovic on, I was my volume was way down low, so that sucked. But yeah, that's about it for this one. I definitely do have some more stuff coming up. I've been talking with Kyle Matovic. He has that show 5 to Midnight, and one of the other guys on there, Typo. I've been talking to him, and I'm going to try to get him to come on to kind of talk about the same thing that me and Kyle talked about, because Typo's been going down that same kind of road. Yeah, man. So Trey says, good one. Glad you got all your boomer. Yeah. I'm sometimes the most, I often say that I think I'm the oldest millennial on the planet. And sometimes I do feel kind of boomery, especially when I'm doing these streams. It's embarrassing, but we're getting it figured out. I appreciate all you guys for coming on. I think most of you already follow me on Twitter, but it's up there, Based Fat Chad. You should check out some of my co-host solo shows. Ali, you said that you had a similar path to Christianity. You might be interested in my co-hosts solo shows, and some of the shows we do together, we talk about that kind of stuff too. He's very he definitely I don't want to say like psychedelic spirituality. I think that he's developed kind of a system of belief that's more substantial than just psychedelic spirituality. But it's definitely got a lot of crossover with that. So you definitely check that stuff out. And again, I appreciate all of you and have a great evening.